So thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm Tad from the Cassini Collection. My colleague Mark is also joining us from Toronto. I'm based in Seattle. And as I said, I think all of us in North America, or maybe in the Northern Hemisphere right now, are suffering from extreme heat of one level or the other. So we thought we'd do you a public service for you guys and take you on a little virtual tour. Maybe it's just gonna make it even harder to be so hot. I don't know, but we're gonna kind of cool you down with a winter wonderland tour of Yellowstone, the Grand Tetons, and Jackson Hole. If you haven't been reading our emails or seen, our marketing over the last year or so, if you don't know this number yet, remember this: that only 2% of Yellowstone's nearly 5 million people that visit every year come during the winter time. So if you want guests to truly have an exclusive experience in Yellowstone, the winter is the time to go there. Very few people, and of course, the wildlife is still all there, and an exceptional time to take photos of the wildlife with the white backdrops. Lots of winter adventures to be had as well, and that's where our great partner down in the region, Julie Severson, and her company Gather Away come in. So for those of you that don't know Julie and Gather Away, they're a trade-focused DMC and tour operator based in the Greater Yellowstone region out of Jackson, Wyoming. They're focused on creating bespoke, curated experience in the area. They specialize in high-end FIT arrangements, really great at working with families, multi-generational groups, specialized small group tours as well. Julie's husband and business partner, Paul Brown, has been a certified naturalist guide in the region for many years, also guided up in the Manitoba region doing the polar bears back in a number of years ago. I've had the pleasure of going on safari in Yellowstone with Paul on a number of occasions, and he's one of the best guides I've ever traveled with anywhere in the world. Full stop. Fantastic guide. Their guide team, in addition to Paul, is also second to none in the region, and we'll send you out links to who their other guides that they bring in. Paul has been a guide trainer in the region as well for a long time, so he really knows how to handpick the best of the best for your guests. So with that, Julie, I think I'll hand it over to you and let you take us on this Winter Wonderland tour and try to cool us all down for at least 30 minutes. And then we'll open it up at the end to any questions. Feel free to pop questions into the chat as well as we go through, and then we'll try to address them after Julie's presentation. So Julie, over to you.
Great. Well, thank you, Ted, for the intro, and thanks to everyone for taking a little time out of your day to learn about our area in the winter. So many people come here in the summer. As Tad said, millions of people come here in the summer, and in the winter, it really is arguably even more special. So it's Paul's favorite season. So I think that says a lot, being a 20+ year guide in the area. So I'll go through and talk through the area. And as Tad said, we've got plenty of time to answer questions. But just to kind of give a little overview of the region. So we're here in Jackson, Wyoming. This outline is Grand Teton. This outline is Yellowstone, obviously much bigger than Grand Teton. And then I point out Bozeman because in the winter, Jackson and Bozeman would be your two entry points into the ecosystem. So we're going to focus on kind of 4 different areas or combos that you could do for your clients as far as itineraries. You could do Jackson and Grand Teton alone. Great for a getaway. You could do Jackson, Grand Teton, and then up into the interior of Yellowstone National Park. Alternatively, coming into Bozeman, you could do the northern range of Yellowstone, which is known as the Serengeti of North America. It's going to be the most consistent wolf habitat and wolf viewing area in the park. And then you could also combine that with time in the interior of Yellowstone. So we'll go through kind of all of that in a little bit more detail, but just to give you kind of some orientation to the area. One big benefit of winter is the airlift. Jackson Hole being a world-class ski destination, we actually have better connectivity in winter than we do in summer as far as direct routings across the country. Similarly, Bozeman has great direct flight options, and also being access point for Big Sky in ski season. That also helps with having some of the carriers increase their number of direct routes that they operate in the winter. So it can be actually, in fact, easier and sometimes cheaper to get here in the winter compared to summer. In Jackson, I don't know about Bozeman, but in Jackson, the ski resort does subsidize some of the and work with the airlines to keep the fares more reasonable to get into the valley. So easy to get here, either into kind of that southern access of Jackson or the northern access into Bozeman, Montana. So the big thing to kind of talk about right now is Jackson Hole as more than just a ski destination. Many people know it, solely as being Jackson Hole Mountain Resort. It does have epic skiing. So if you do have downhill ski clients, bring them, and then we'll show them some of the other hidden gems along the way as well. But this is kind of the Jackson Hole Valley, total winter wonderland. And then this is Grand Teton National Park. And as far as wildlife, I would say that is one of the secrets of the area, is that the wildlife viewing in Jackson Hole in winter is arguably better than in summer. In winter, Jackson Hole becomes winter range for thousands of elk. We have 5,000 to 8,000 elk that are 2 blocks from my house on the National Elk Refuge. In the summer, they're all here, but they're spread apart, up in the mountains and areas you can't even see. And in winter, they all migrate down to these lower elevations. So we've got thousands of herds of elk. We've got bighorn sheep that you won't see anywhere in the summer that winter here. And then, of course, given that we've got great bird species, but also the predators and the scavengers that then kind of follow those mammals. We do have wolves in Jackson Hole. It is less consistent of a location for viewing wolves, so it wouldn't be something that I would say, guaranteed. But we do have wolves in the area, coyotes, eagles, swans. So really wonderful wildlife viewing and a lot of up close viewing opportunities compared to summer, where oftentimes you're viewing at a significant distance. But just because the area that the wildlife can use is so much more compact in the winter due to the heavy snowfall at the higher elevations, you're really going to have some great wildlife encounters in winter, arguably even better than summer. In addition, of course, it's not just about the wildlife. You could come and spend every day out solely looking at wildlife, but we also have all the active adventures, that you could imagine. You can really get out and it is a big playground, a winter wonderland playground. I mean, you've got, of course, the downhill skiing. So 2 resorts right in the town of Jackson. Got Snow King, which is our little town hill. And then also, and it's great for oftentimes people that just want to do a day of skiing and maybe, that's not their focus. And then there's also the legendary kind of award-winning Jackson Hole Mountain Resort. But in addition to that, you can get out and snowshoeing both in the National Forest and in Grand Teton National Park, cross-country skiing, snowmobiling, dog sledding, fat tire biking. I mean, you could do a whole week and do a different winter activity every single day. So being out, and getting active and all of these activities, I would say, with the exception of, cross-country skiing, I still fall and can't get up sometimes, but most of these are totally, beginner friendly. So you don't have to be, you don't have to snowshoe before, you don't have to snowmobile before. This is really fun kind of learning and just to, ground an area that you can just kind of get your feet wet and trying all these winter activities. In addition, of course, we do have a lot of bells and whistles here too in Jackson Hole. So, when you're out and kind of out in wilderness all day, it's nice to have some kind of special treats to either come home to. Obviously we've got great accommodations, but as far as experiences, one of my favorites is taking a private sleigh ride along the Snake River, kind of this bottom right picture, and you arrive at this exclusive location along the banks of the Snake River where they've got heated teepees, and you can do this either kind of around lunch. You arrive to the fire, have a hot chocolate and then a hearty lunch, hot lunch cooked to order, grilled cheese and a homemade soup. Or in the evening, it's more of an elevated fine dining experience where you take the same sleigh ride, but then arrive to camp, have, a glass of wine around the fire, and then head into one of these beautifully appointed teepees for a higher end dining experience. We also have, the opportunity to do scenic flights. We can do some unique experiences like a primitive skills workshop. We work with a local naturalist who has really immersed himself in kind of the early settlers, not necessarily the indigenous population that used the area, but the trappers that came and how they survived in this. So fire building skills and things of that nature, really great for families. Kids get to build their own fire, very organic experience. And then another real highlight of the Jackson Hole area is the art scene. So if you have clients who are art lovers, we've got the National Museum of Wildlife Art, which has got a world-renowned collection. The town is chock full of galleries. We can do local kind of meet and greets with local artists, a private dinner in local artist gallery. So a lot of ways to add some very special touches to your client's experience so they can get out and active and experience the wildlife in the winter wonderland, and then have some high-end luxury touches to kind of round out their experience. So that's kind of Jackson Hole and Grand Teton. And then in conjunction with that, you can, of course, include, going into Yellowstone National Park. And as Tad mentioned, 2% of the annual visitation is in winter. So it really is an experience that is probably one of the most exclusive ways to, or the most exclusive way to experience Yellowstone, compared to, today when there's probably 100,000 people, at Old Faithful. You'll see it with, 100, you never know how quiet it could be. So this is a map of Yellowstone National Park. This is the southern entrance that would be your Jackson Hole access, the northern entrance. So this would be if you're, flying into Bozeman and staying in the town of Gardner, that's the northern access. And then you can also access from the west and the east in the winter. I'm going to focus primarily on the north and south access, but regardless, all of these access points into the interior, the only way to get into the park is by guided snow coach or snowmobile. So you can't self-drive yourself into the interior of Yellowstone. One of the ways, that's one of the ways it stays as exclusive as it is. The roads are not maintained for regular vehicles, so you have to be with a guide. And so the numbers are limited based on that factor. And that would be your access to the key sites of Old Faithful and the geothermal activity. You can also get into the Madison area, which is wildlife rich in the interior, and then the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, which seeing those waterfalls in the midst of winter with the frozen streams of water is pretty spectacular. Photographers, this would be, an incredible way to spend a couple of days is capturing these winter images in the interior without any crowds. The only road that you're able to drive with a regular vehicle is this Northern Range Road between Gardner, the northeast and the northwest entrance, Gardner and Cook City, Montana. Good thing for us is that's where the highest wildlife concentration is. And, if you have clients interested in wolves in particular, this would be, hitting the Northern Range is a must do for that. So just to give you an idea of, these are kind of the varying, a couple of the variations of snow coaches. So they are vehicles that have either been converted to be on tracks or big wheels. There are also some old bombardiers. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but they look like tin cans on skis. We don't usually put our clients in those because they are very uncomfortable, but they are fun to look at and take a picture of if you catch them. But going into Yellowstone, you can do either go in as a day trip. It is a long day trip, but either from the south or the north, you can come in by snow coach to do a day trip into Yellowstone. So if people want to see Yellowstone and get in there, you can do that either via private snow coach, or there are shared options. Big day, 10, 12 hours, but gets you into into the interior, into Old Faithful, see, an eruption, have some time, and then continue back out the way you came. If you have the time, the highlight is to go in and stay overnight. The Old Faithful Snow Lodge operates in winter. It's the only accommodation in the interior of the park that operates. So you can go in for a night, 2 nights, 3 nights. I would say 2 nights is kind of the sweet spot, but if you have only 1 or you have more, it all works. And you can go in a couple of different ways. You can, do the chartered snow coach if you have clients that want that private experience. It does have a premium price tag with it. But there also are just kind of A to B transfers, so that would get you in there at a much more reasonable cost. And then you could have your private guide with you for your night or 2 nights to explore the area once you're there. So even though you might be on a shared kind of transfer shuttle, once you're there, you've got the exclusive access of having a private guide to explore the geyser basins with. And that again can be done either from the north or from the south. So the main kind of draw is, of course, the geothermal features in the interior of Yellowstone. But because of the heat from those geothermal features, it's also a very wonderful place for wildlife. Bison in particular like to hang out there. All those pictures you see of snowy bison, they're 99%, they're taken in the interior of Yellowstone, where they've got the steam from the geysers that then crystallizes. And then every once in a while, you can get a really impressive experience in the interior. These are some wolves that were, and this is from a snow coach. So pretty remarkable. You don't see this every day. I'm not going to promise this, but it does happen. And it happens more often than you'd expect. Obviously, where the food is, the wolves or the predators are going to be. So this was just a really, really special day. And this is, as you can see, the steam rolling past. This is in the interior of Yellowstone. So Yellowstone's northern range, which would be, if you fly into Bozeman and then stay kind of at the north entrance, you could do in Gardner, or there's also the higher end accommodation of Sage Lodge, a lot of people are familiar with. That's in the Paradise Valley of Montana, also good access to the northern range. Yellowstone's northern range is the area that is accessible by regular vehicle, so you don't need to be on any big snow coach to get in there. Got Mammoth Hot Springs in the middle. It's wonderful winter range, and there are consistent wolf populations that use the Lamar Valley. So it is the best winter range in Yellowstone. So like I said previously, if you do have clients who are interested in wolves, the Lamar Valley is a must do. These, it's so consistent that that's where the park does all of its research and management, is kind of based out of the Lamar Valley. So they do studies, and especially in winter, they do studies in December and March. Those are kind of insider tip. Some of the easier times to find wolves, because you follow the researchers and they're usually know where the wolves are. But when you have our guides, you don't need those, because they are out there every day. They have eyes that I don't know how it works, that they can spot, wolves from a mile off or, closer. But the northern range is really a special place to visit. So similar to out of Jackson, if you have people that are either in the interior or in the northern range, a lot of the similar experiences as far as getting out and active, snowmobiling, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. There are some, hot springs outside of the park in northern Yellowstone. So that's always a fun way to end a winter day, is with a soak in hot springs, as well as, if you do have higher end clients that, there are kind of 2 options as far as accommodations up in the northern range. They're outside of the park. And I've mentioned Gardner. It's a little old west town, got some very, local inns and lodges that we work with. They are clean, comfortable, but mid-range, lots of character. If you do have clients that, want a little bit more luxury, staying just a little bit further away from the entrance at Sage Lodge, you've got, the spa, the, hot tubs, can do mixology classes, have higher end dining. So there is both options in the Northern Range as far as accommodations as well. So we'll go through now just kind of some overviews of itineraries, just to give you an idea of what's possible. Kind of jumping back to Jackson Hole, as I mentioned with the good airlift, coming in summer, it's really, I feel like people want to come and stay for longer because in summer you have access to the entire ecosystem, Jackson Hole, Grand Teton, Yellowstone. It's, hard to kind of decide to focus on one area. In winter, because it's a little bit more, challenging to move around, I think it lends itself a little bit easier to these getaways. So, especially with the airlift, flying into Jackson Hole direct from, one of those many hubs, arrive in Jackson Hole, a day going out, doing a winter wildlife safari, having a lovely lunch and visit to the National Museum of Wildlife Art, and then a sleigh ride out on the National Elk Refuge. So that's where the 5,000 to 8,000 elk winter. And similar to being on safari in other locations, they are habituated to these sleighs and horses. So you can get right up close to these large herds or these big males, great for photography, wonderful wildlife experience just in general. So that's kind of a must do in my opinion. Another day of getting out and active, with snowshoeing or cross-country skiing or fat tire biking, anything that your clients are interested in, and then kind of rounding it off with a elevated experience of an evening sleigh ride with dinner at that exclusive teepee camp. And then heading out the next day. Of course, you could extend that for many days onwards, but just to give you an idea of what's possible in a short amount of time, that would be my recommendation for a Jackson Hole getaway. If you have clients who want to get into the interior of Yellowstone, you'd have your couple nights in Jackson Hole, and then you could head into Yellowstone by snow coach and spend an overnight at the Old Faithful Snow Lodge. If you go in on one of those shuttles, you can be at Old Faithful as early as 10 a.m. So you have the whole day to explore on foot the Geyser Basin. And then the next, overnight at the Snow Lodge, go out, on a star walk with your guide that evening. If it's a clear night, you'll see stars like you've never seen before with, so little light pollution. Get up the next morning, head out by snowshoe with your guide, and then leave Old Faithful around 3 and get back to Jackson for your final evening, and with a lovely dinner in one of our great local restaurants, and then head out the next day. So that would be, a more condensed itinerary. You could add an extra night in Jackson and or an extra night in Old Faithful, but that's just kind of a baseline to kind of build off of as far as an itinerary that would include Jackson Hole, Grand Teton, and the interior of Yellowstone National Park, which if the clients have the time and the money, that really is kind of the cherry on top of a winter experience in this area. So heading up to the Northern Range, especially for, as I keep saying, if you have clients interested in wolves, flying into Bozeman, there's a wonderful museum in Bozeman, the Museum of the Rockies, which is worth a visit. Either sometimes it works well kind of on arrival day to have lunch in the afternoon in Bozeman, or on your departure morning if they have afternoon flights out, to get into Bozeman a little early for the museum. And then transferring into either Gardner, Montana, or Paradise Valley, where the Sage Lodge is. And then spending kind of the next 3 full days in Yellowstone's Northern Range. So you would be primarily focused on wildlife viewing and getting out and active on snowshoes, if that's, something that your clients are interested and able to do. So this would be great for, a photography, clients interested in winter photography, or your really dedicated wildlife aficionados. If they haven't been staying at Sage Lodge, I do always recommend stopping at Chico Hot Springs at some point in the itinerary, which is kind of a quirky historic resort, but soaking in the hot springs in the winter, as I said, is a pretty magical way to warm up after the cold temperatures that you could experience. And then again, flying out of Bozeman. And then kind of the ultimate Yellowstone winter experience would be to include the northern range and then also the interior of Yellowstone. And this itinerary is, kind of sorry, my numbering's a little off, 2 days, 2 full days in Yellowstone's northern range, and then 2 nights in the interior, which would give you time to explore Old Faithful and the Geyser Basin, get out snowshoeing, or cross-country skiing if you have clients that are interested in that. And then also heading potentially into the Madison Valley, which would be kind of a half-day snow coach excursion from Old Faithful round trip, kind of out and back. And that would be, more wildlife focused. And of course, this can all be, customized. So if you have clients that are photographers, I would potentially recommend, including a snow coaching excursion that would get them to the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone River in winter. So this is really just a starting point to kind of give you an overview of the kind of those 4 categories, Jackson Hole and Grand Teton, Jackson Hole, Grand Teton, and Yellowstone, or Yellowstone's northern range, or Yellowstone's northern range and the interior, and any combination of the above. And then finally, if you have clients that are already coming to Jackson Hole, whether it be, they have a house here, or they are coming for a ski trip and they have a couple extra days, or it's a multi-gen family and, grandma and grandpa aren't skiing anymore. We do in the winter offer great a la carte excursions that you could tag onto an existing trip that your clients already have booked, or that you have booked for them. If they're skiing or otherwise, we have a lot of families that have, do the holidays out here, and, they just want an excursion or 2 for the whole family to get out and experience kind of the other side of Jackson Hole. So we can do kind of those winter wildlife safaris in Grand Teton as a standalone day, combining also the winter wildlife safari and those elevated sleigh rides with one of those winter gourmet picnic lunches, or doing a combination of, winter wildlife and an outdoor activity. So a lot of things that don't kind of in your standard playbook of Jackson Hole day trips that might be offered by the hotel or concierge, that aren't in their repertoire are kind of how we try to create a more unique experience for your clients, is by customizing these activities and days out to be a little bit more tailored to their interests, and also flexible based on, who's traveling, how many are traveling, the ages and whatnot. So it's not a standard, we pick you up at 8, we drop you off at noon. Everything can be tailored to your clients. So you can always come to me and say, hey, I've got this family and they're not really sure, these are their interests, and we can talk about what would be a good fit. And then similarly, if you have clients that are already coming to Jackson Hole, but they could be interested in, going into Yellowstone in addition, we can do kind of the standalone Yellowstone extensions, where we start and end in Jackson, either, 1 night or 2 nights into the interior with your private naturalist guide. So you'd get in by snow coach, either, a private charter or a shared transfer. And then once you're at Old Faithful, you have exclusive, guiding services to experience the interior of the park. And it really is one of those locations that, comes alive with the guiding. I think we all know in the industry that guides can really enhance an experience, but I would say, Yellowstone is one of those destinations that you can see it and tick the box and, see the highlights, but a lot of the really wonderful information and off the beaten path activities, even in winter, are, something that a high class guide would be able to really reveal to your clients at a different level than they'd be able to do on their own, or on just a scheduled tour that may be offered, through a hotel or concierge. So I know that's a lot of information and I talked fast, but I wanted to make sure that we got through it and, got it all out there for you guys. And that is everything kind of on my list and presentation. So Tad, I'll turn it back
That's
over to you.
that's Paul for those of you that haven't met him in his natural environment, negative whatever in the winter.
And don't be scared by the temperature, but that is negative 50 plus degrees Fahrenheit.
How
That
often
is
does
not
how often does
typical.
that happen, Julie? Let's just be
That's a
honest
record.
about it. Okay.
That's
All
a
right. Well,
record
good.
across all guiding companies. Nobody has experienced that, but of course,
He,
Paul.
he looks great for negative 50. I mean, geez, they just hop out of the car, take the pick, and hop back in or something.
Yes, 100%.
Thanks, Julie. This was great. I have a couple of questions. I just first want to reiterate what you just said about the guiding being such an important factor in these trips, not just in the winter, but in the summer as well. And I've been to Yellowstone a couple of times on my own, and saw bison probably, and that was about it. And of course, Yellowstone or Old Faithful and whatnot. But going with Paul now on two separate occasions and two different seasons, it really does make a massive difference. And I think it is far more important to have a great guide like Paul and your guide team in Yellowstone and the region than it is even in most places in Africa, maybe, Namibia excluded, let's say, but the Masai Mara, you can practically trip over a lion, just about everywhere you are.
You do
But
ice
you need to have somebody who knows where to find the wolves, who knows how to get you places where you're not going to be sharing that experience with as many people in the summertime, of course. And I really, that's what hit home with me in visiting with Paul was how the experience was night and day from what I had experienced on my own, trying to see wildlife. So just to kind of endorse and add to what you said about guides. A couple of questions that came in for you, Julie. The first was recommended minimum ages. I know you guys do a lot of families, multi-gen groups. Is there a certain age that you would say is the right kind of minimum for winter and summer for that matter?
I wouldn't want to exclude, kind of the younger ages, but I say that 7 to 8, age range is where we start to see that the kids start to really embrace the experience. The challenge is, every parent knows their kids better than we do, of course. So the questions that I would say, or the considerations would be time in a vehicle. So Yellowstone is huge, summer and winter. You are spending time getting to and from point A to point B. In winter, those snow coaches go 25 miles per hour. It is the slow road to Old Faithful. It's beautiful. You stop along the way, but it is, some significant time in a vehicle. That can also be a consideration for adults. So, just to kind of be transparent about that. So, knowing whether that would be a successful experience for your kids or not, if they're younger than that kind of 7 to 8 range is something to know. And then as far as wildlife, in winter, especially in the Jackson Hole area, one thing that, the wildlife, oftentimes we're viewing wildlife from a distance, one, because it's required, and two, because we're not driving off-road here. You are relegated to the paved and dirt roads in the park. So wildlife viewing can be at a distance. So we are using spotting scopes and binoculars. So, I think still that ability for kids to be, able to kind of look through and focus. That being said, in winter, you are having such up close wildlife encounters in Jackson Hole that I think that that's almost less of a consideration than in summer. So we just had a multi-generational family of 10 with a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, and two 13-year-olds, and they did great. I think the time in the car would have been the only consideration. And it was kind of more for the parents' sake than the kids' sake. They had a blast, but yeah, that kind of 7 to 8-year-old range is kind of that sweet spot. But I wouldn't, deter people from bringing younger. I would say car seat, that kind of 2 and under. It might be a little kind of elusive of an experience, for that young of a kid.
Yeah, we came when Grace was 7 with you guys 2 summers ago, and yeah, I totally agree. That was a perfect age. As far as the spotting scopes go, Paul does all the work as do all your guides for your guests. So you don't even have to know what a spotting scope is or how to use it, it literally gets set up and focused on what he's looking for, wolves or bears or whatnot, and you just put your eye on there and it's right there. Yeah, it definitely can be a little harder for younger kids. Grace did manage to figure it out and loved it, and it wasn't a hard thing at all because Paul does everything for you. So another question was, well, more of a comment that maybe you can add a little bit too, but a lot of our folks that are attending today have a specialty in Africa or spend a lot of time in Africa, maybe cross-selling with some of their safaris. I think you and Paul, as well as Eric and Melissa, two of your guides, have spent a ton of time in Africa, whether that be on your own trips or hosting, tour leading for other companies. Could you talk a little bit about some of those elements that you try to bring to the table from the African safari experience to the American safari experience that you guys are delivering for your guests?
Definitely. So, you know, all of the special touches as far as kind of the high quality of food and the dining experiences while out in the field are something that we really pride ourselves on. So wonderful field breakfasts, gourmet picnic lunches. Even in winter, we do winter picnics, which is always a wow for people. You know, but around the fire, or if it's in a more remote location, just with beautiful views. And so kind of those surprise elements along the way are some of the aspects of kind of the African safari that we've brought into the American safari world. And also as far as, you know, enhancing the exclusive experience, both in summer and winter, you know, we're getting your clients out at the optimal time. It really is that safari schedule where you're up at sunrise. You know, in winter, that's a little more manageable than in summer. So if you have people that don't like to get up as early, winter's maybe their time because sunrise is 7 or 7:30 and not 4 or 4:30. But getting people up at that optimum time to be out when the sun rises, out when the sun sets. I would say the one difference is we're not, except for in winter, but in summer, we're generally out, you know, not coming back to the lodge, say midday. You know, we're out for kind of that full day safari experience. Winter, it's a little more in the Jackson Hole area, I should say, a little more possible to do kind of the morning out, come back, have some time at the, you know, hotel, especially if you have the, you know, multi-gen with kids that maybe need a break, and then maybe heading back out for an evening activity because the area that you're covering is a little bit more condensed. So, and as you know, Tad was mentioning, you know, even in the summer when we've got millions of people here, I can guarantee you that you're probably watching wolves on a hill away from every other person in the park, while there's a crowd of, you know, 30 people a mile away watching from a different vantage point. So, you know, both because of the personal preferences of our guides, but also the experience that we want to, you know, have is really trying to get your clients in nature, and regardless of what else is going on in the park, having a really individualized and exclusive wildlife viewing experience.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely can second that as well. Paul is a master at getting you away from the crowds who are all lined up on a ridge, and you're just one ridge away with an even better view, and it's just you and your Yeti coffee in the morning. And I can also say the mornings in the summer, definitely Paul likes to be there well before first light. So, but you get a nice little cup Yeti coffee in the morning, hot baked goods delivered to your room before you head off. So you guys managed to make it tolerable to get up so early. But anybody that's been on African safaris know about the early mornings and how critical that is for seeing wildlife. So shouldn't come as a surprise. Any other questions from our attendees today? And if not, we'll wrap it up and say thanks for joining us.
Oh, I have a quick one. Hi,
Hey,
Julie.
Lindsay.
I'm Lindsay from Natural World Safaris. Do you find that most of your guests are from North America, or do you have a large population of folks coming in from abroad that you're guiding?
Well, it's a little bit, you know, the past 2 years, the dynamic has changed in the area in general. I would say, you know, pre-2020, it was probably like a 60-40 North American international. And Of course, in the past 3 years, it's been much more North American focused, domestic tourism. But we're hoping, one of the areas that we're hoping is to kind of foster kind of bringing back a wider and more diverse, as far as different nationalities into the area, and also, our services in particular.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks for joining us. Anybody else with any questions for Julie? All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today, and for listening to Julie talk about some of these amazing winter adventures. Hopefully cooled you down a little bit virtually today. Fingers crossed it starts to cool down wherever you are in North America or around the world. I don't know if we have anybody outside of North America today, but you can always contact Mark and I. Mark is in Toronto, as I said. I'm out in Seattle. If you have any questions, and of course, Julie is in the thick of it right now in Jackson on their summer operations, and she's just an email or a phone call away. We will send a follow-up with some of the sample itineraries that all have net pricing, so you can at least have an example to show your clients initially, as well as some of Julie and Paul's kind of exclusive and unique experiences that they like to weave into their itineraries. So look for that in the next week or so, and then a recording of this webinar as well if you missed any of it, or you want to share it with your colleagues. So, Julie, good luck with the rest of the crazy summer season, and look forward to seeing you in the winter. And thanks everybody else for joining us. Have a great rest of your day and the rest of the summer.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.